lost the soundboard again.
Come on, OBS.
We're still on OBS?
Oh, or
Yeah. It all runs through OBS.
Now we're back. Now we're here. Did you get it?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going then.
I know it was wrong.
Okay, cool.
Let's see. You said there was no sound.
Okay. I'll start over on that part. A Lovely Pause is a local nonprofit created to provide community education, awareness, coping skills, support to people with PTSD and other trauma-related disorders. This month, subscribers to our newsletter, The Pause, will receive free Relationship Goals Worksheet. Use our worksheet to keep up with what you learn on Therapy Thursday this month and make future goals with our relationship bucket list. Visit us online at alovelypause.com, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
And one more time, Affinity Counseling Services is located in Pickett, Arkansas and Kennett, Missouri. We have 3 therapists on staff at our office and are taking new clients. And if you would like to join our waiting list, you can find it at Counseling with Affinity, AFFINITY.com, or you can call us at 870-324-5122 or at our Missouri location, 573-840-0440.
Oh, I've got to run the gauntlet now.
I think it's still in there.
We are about to begin. Stay tuned. It's going to be a good one.
Today we are talking about our growing your relationship, growing in your love, and our topic today is communicating to nourish, not harm. We're talking about communication styles. Oh, the title is Be the Rain, Not the Thunder. So communicate to nourish, not harm.
All right. Let's do
Communication styles and conflict styles. All right, I think we're ready. Therapy Thursday normalizes discussing mental health topics in a safe, supportive environment because not being normal is normal.
Transition.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we're good?
Oh, I was still how that was going.
I was paying attention to what was in front of me that's on a
see.
delay. That's my fault.
Oh,
I
look.
was not watching you, Kindred. My bad.
Me either.
Welcome, everyone, to Therapy Thursday, our weekly installment here at Affinity Counseling Services, where we talk about different mental health topics from a personal and professional perspective. My name is Matthew Yount, lead therapist and now president, again, at Affinity Counseling. I forget what I am half the time. To my right,
We still do all the same things. We still do all the things.
it's
The
still
title
all
doesn't
the
really-
stuff. Does it matter?
The legal title is just that exactly. that.
Exactly. It's just the legal title.
For legal purposes, this is the title.
This is my wife, vice president of Affinity and president of A Lovely Pause. This is Stacy, our marketing director here at Affinity and vice president at A Lovely Pause. And taking your questions, comments, and concerns behind the camera, as always, is Kindred, our office manager here and secretary at A Lovely Pause.
Yes.
Cool. I'm getting this. All right. Well, good. We are talking about conflict today.
Communication styles and conflict styles.
Communication and conflict styles. Well, that'll be a good one. Like you said, I
Yeah.
can do this one in my sleep
Yeah.
because this is what I talk about most of the time in therapy sessions, especially with couples. And I just finished a 10-week class over
Yeah.
it
At BRTC.
at Black River. So pretty sure I'm qualified to teach this one.
I'm pretty sure you are.
I hope so. So before we get started, is there anything that we need to discuss that's coming up as far as A Lovely Pause or anything with...
We are still doing our raffle,
Okay.
so you can get a hold of one of the Lovely Paws board members, which would be Teresa Forrest, myself, Stacy, Kindred, Fallon Winscott, Fran Nelson, and I'm forgetting Kaylin Conley Harris. So all of those people are board members, and you can get tickets from them. You could also get tickets at First National Bank or at Forest Roots. And if you want to see what we're raffling off, it is a 45 quart or 45 gallon. I don't know. It's a 45.
I don't think it's
Tundra
yeah.
45.
I'm pretty sure it's quart.
And
Gallon would be huge.
Huge. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not very good at that kind of stuff.
Me either.
It's a really big,
It is.
decent sized Yeti cooler. It's navy, so it's really pretty, and it's kind of with the rack inside. So if you want to see it, it is at up at Forest Roots Bar and Grill, and yeah, you can sign up to win that. And we're going to be doing the drawing after the Super Bowl at Forest Roots, but you do not have to be there to win. Just we'll get your phone number and we'll give you a call if you win.
Yep. Very cool.
Tickets are 15 for 1 and 2 for 20, and it supports A Lovely Pause and helping people who have PTSD or other trauma-related disorders get the services that they need.
Ted Gum, your elevator speech is getting good. Very good.
I have to write it 17,000 times a day. You know how many times I've had to write our mission statement on legal documents? So many times.
I understand. I get it. All right. So let's jump into today's topic. So we're talking about growing your love. And as we have probably stated before, and has probably been stated several times, communication is the key to a relationship. And most relationships involving two or more people, like especially when I get into organizations, teams, and companies and things like that, everybody says the same thing. Number one problem is communication. Number one problem is communication. And it's so funny that that's the number one problem, because it's like the thing we do from the moment we're like born is we start communicating. It's through body language, cries, different sounds first, but then eventually we learn how to make noises with our mouth that indicate like what it is that we mean and need. And you would think at this point in our lives, we should all be really good at communicating, but we suck at it.
We don't all have the circumstances to be taught how to properly communicate.
No, we don't. So what are the barriers that you see to proper communication? Either one of you.
Avoidance of communication, just period. Just that's a lot of like what of my experience is. You might talk about it a little bit right as it's happening, but then you really didn't kind of talk about it anymore because feelings are kind of uncomfortable. So, and I'm not necessarily saying that's how it always was, but that was the majority of time. If something happened, it happened, and then you just kind of didn't really talk about it anymore because it brought up uncomfortable feelings, and so you just kind of avoided it. So you just kept it in and didn't really talk about it and held it all in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's the not knowing how, the avoidance of it. What else gets in the way?
Emotions.
That's a big one. And because we don't communicate those very well. In fact, we're taught to suppress them most of the time.
Yeah, so then like in my instance, for me, it was always I would hold those emotions in and not communicate them. And then when I would finally communicate them, they would be built up in so much that it would just come out as like anger, just rage, just neuroticism or anxiety, panic. It would just be, it's like over the top dramatic emotions. And so, I have PTSD, so that automatically makes you have those over dramatic reactions, but then holding that in just amplifies it that much more.
Sure.
Yes, it does. So I think another thing that gets in the way is a lot of times the actual meaning that we have behind words. Because
for sure.
Because we all know that there are definitions to words, but they don't always have the same meaning to everybody. And what I'm trying to communicate to you may have a very different meaning, even with some of the words that you think would be the most simple. Because I could say I'm mad at you, but what I really mean is I'm hurt, or I'm scared. But I'm saying I'm displaying anger, but really underneath that is something else. And that seems to be one of the hardest things about communication consistently is understanding the subtext underneath what's actually being communicated. Because a lot of times what people are telling you is not what they really mean. Or there's meaning underneath there that they're trying to indicate to you, but they're not coming right out and saying it. So they're expecting you to pick up that meaning that's underneath, and then you're supposed to respond to that.
For me, the one of the biggest words that comes to me is the word truth.
Yeah. So what do you mean by that?
So like your truth. Well, people are like, oh, well, your truth. Oh, what is your truth? But as somebody who has That really makes me want to hit somebody.
I know you do.
And just because, and the reason it's so triggering for me is because a lot of my life I didn't know what that was. I was masking or trying to be like everyone else to the point that I did not have my own personality. I did not know my favorite color. I think we've had this conversation before in certain aspects, but like, when you're trying to fit into the point so hard, and when you to the point and you feel so alienated to the point that you're just taking on other people's personalities and opinions and emotions as your own, you lose yourself. You have
Yes.
no idea who you are. And when you've been used for so long by people in various ways, you become like an item. You're a thing, not a person.
Yeah.
So whenever you go to therapy, one of the most liberating things you can do is recognize that you have your own truth, that your feelings are valid, and how you felt in that instant is valid, and that the things that happened to you weren't just, you didn't deserve that. There were things that happened to you out of your control that were horrible, or made you feel bad. That's not who you are. You are not an item. And you are not somebody that somebody can just take advantage of. So, and you're not the accumulation of everyone else that you've tried to be. You are you. And so for people who've been through trauma, especially like, severe trauma, being able to find that within themselves and know their own favorite food, their own favorite color, who they are on the inside, and knowing that they have a truth that is only theirs.
Yeah.
That is super important.
Yeah.
To healing. And so being able, or going up to someone or saying to someone who has been through trauma, saying, well, you don't have a truth. There's only one truth, or this truth. Yes, you are correct, but at the same time, they still have their own personal truth in that own way.
I get what you're saying, and that's where the difficulty comes in with communication.
Yes.
Is some people want to have hard and fast meanings to certain words,
Yes.
while other people play more loose with the ideas that are behind words.
Yes.
And that makes it really difficult to communicate. Then you also get into different conflict styles. You get people that are more avoidant, people that are accommodating, collaborating, like looking for win-wins, people that compete, and then you get into people that compromise. And then we all kind of use different various forms of those styles in different circumstances, but we all kind of have this one style that we typically fall back on.
Yeah.
So if my style does not necessarily match your style, if I'm someone who wants to collaborate but you want to avoid, that's going to be really hard for us to have a communication because you don't want to talk about the conflict thing. So I can't work with you if you're not willing to communicate about it.
Right.
So we get our own things that get in the way of our ability to adequately communicate with another person. So, go ahead.
I just want to say that I just think that this is like you said, you do this a lot in therapy. And a lot of people think you have to have something wrong with you or some type of trauma or issue to go to therapy or some type of mental illness. But communication and learning your communication style and learning conflict is one of the most basic reasons to go to therapy. And I just want to throw that out there. You don't have to have something wrong with you. Figure out your style and how to better communicate with people.
Yeah.
That's going to change your relationships across the board.
Really, it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you know someone else's style, you can learn how to better communicate with them.
Yes.
And if you know your own style, you know what to look out for as your strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
So let's talk about what the topic is on today, though. Communicating to nourish, not to harm.
Yes. So
you're the one that came up with the topic. What is it that you look at as far as communication that would be nourishing?
Well, so I'm actually listening to a lecture from I don't remember the doctor's name that's teaching the lecture right now, but on Audible. I'm actually listening to a lecture on argumentation. And he's talking about how argumentation is seen as, a negative thing. You don't want to have an argument, but that's not necessarily true because what if nobody argued? Like, how would you get close with people? We all have different thoughts and different perspectives. How would we even come, we can come to a compromise, like he's saying, and try to make things even better by arguments. So it's not the argument that's necessarily negative. It is the way that you approach the argument that's negative. So if you're having an argument with someone, then you're solving problems. You're bonding in a way, especially if you can communicate well. If you're having a good communication, you're bonding in a way. You're learning somebody else's perspective. You're learning how, that your perspective is not the only perspective, and you're given, that much more ability to be aware of other people and how you come across. I mean, it's a whole learning situation. And so what I mean by nourish is like, you grow yourself, you grow your relationships, you grow your mental capacity and awareness. I mean, you grow so much just having a
constructive argument.
Yes.
And that is the difference. So when we get into talking, and that's why so many people avoid these kinds of conversations, right? Because like, they're hard. It's hard to talk about something that you have a very different perspective on from the other person, especially if it's something that's got like heightened emotions attached to it. When you're in a relationship with somebody, you can be viewing a situation that happened and how they handled it completely different ways, right? And trying to talk to the middle of that and like communicate to each other like where the other's coming from. A lot of times it can be hard to not be like, oh my gosh, but you were being such a meh. And
Which goes back to no blaming. Like, you don't blame people. So like there's actually things to learn, like lessons that you can learn as far as what not to do and what to do in communicating properly.
Sure.
You're not always taught those, and so how do you learn them?
So let's talk about that, because like I think we all have been in that boat of like letting our emotions carry us away with like, with talking to people of different perspectives, and we're not gonna find our way to the middle being raw at each other, right? So like what are things to avoid when we're in those kind of conversations?
Okay, so I think if we're going to look at healthy communication being built for nourishing someone.
Yeah.
The nourishment, what we're looking there is like, you want to get a certain result. That's what you're looking for. And that result may be a closer relationship. It may be an outcome that is a shared desire, whatever it is. And so if we're going to avoid certain things, we need to know what it is that we have to develop in order to know what we need to avoid. So if we look at a team development, there's a team development model that I use. And that team development comes from a book. It's called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, but it works really well for any group of people, personal relationship. It doesn't really matter. And here's essentially how that model breaks down, is that first, with every group of people, there has to be first develops trust. But that trust has to be based on vulnerability. It has to be based on openness, the ability to communicate, the ability to admit weakness and show weakness and feel comfortable with that. So there's that first, the development of trust based on vulnerability. The next thing that comes into play then, if we have that, is we can develop healthy conflict. And healthy conflict just means that we can disagree but still come to some sort of resolution. It doesn't have to be a consensus even. We just hear each other out. And then once we hear each other out, it moves to the next phase, which is commitment. If I hear you and you hear me, even if we don't agree, like you and I don't always agree, but we do commit to things. Even if I don't agree with your way, I can commit to it, or vice versa. Or with our group decisions here at work, we don't always agree, but we find the thing that we can commit to.
Yeah.
So it's through that we agree, we get to commitment. The next thing, that once we have commitment, we can move into accountability. And that means I can hold you accountable and you can hold me accountable.
Be like, we agreed on this, so we're going to do it. And because, you have effect on every, like if you're in a relationship, what the wife does has an effect on the husband. What the husband does has an effect on the wife. So if you agree on something and then you start not doing it, then that's that other person's ability to,
hold you accountable.
And your responsibility to be held accountable, and vice versa.
Right. And then lastly, once you get all of that, so you get the trust, conflict, commitment, and accountability, then you finally get results that are repeatable and that last. And so that's what you're looking for, is you want to start with that trust. So the thing to avoid is basically anything that erodes trust in a relationship. So you have to be able, you can't be dismissive. You can't be overly aggressive. You can't be belittling or demeaning or dishonest or demoralizing. You have to, at all costs, blaming. You have to, at all costs, avoid anything that would erode trust. And if it, for any reason, you do fall into a trap where you do something that erodes trust, you have to immediately recognize it, come back, be vulnerable, admit, hey, I messed up.
Right, because we're all human. We're gonna do it at some point.
Sure.
I mean, especially if we have. I mean, like me, I can still get emotionally hypervigilant. I can still get triggered. I can still have these things that make me explode, and sometimes I still do it. So what I have to do is be like, okay, I did that. Take responsibility for it. Go back and apologize for it, and then try not to do it again. You know, and so. That's our responsibility to do. So we have to be able to do that as well to be good communicators, because if we can't do that, then that's eroding that trust as well.
Absolutely.
And this is across the board in relationships.
Oh, yeah,
This is
for
not
sure.
just for our romantic relationships, right? This is like
Mm-hmm.
I just did that exact thing with my son River because
Yeah.
like I got super frustrated and like was not like didn't handle it at my most primo, and I came back, I was like, look, like the thing that you did like still wasn't what I was what you were needing to do, but I should have handled this way.
Yeah.
And it set the foundation for us to like come back around and him to not feel so hurt to where he couldn't be receptive to what I was talking about. And us to build from there because like of that me being vulnerable, I'm not this all-knowing parent that's always like, you know, got all of the right words and all the right moves, right? And
Yeah.
none
Yeah.
of us do in any of our relationships. You're gonna mess up.
Absolutely. And actually, it is the act of messing up and seeking reconciliation
Yes.
through vulnerability that solidifies a relationship to be stronger.
Yes, because then they trust you that even if you're going to mess up, you're not going to just be like, "Oh, I messed up," and just be like, "Oh, well, that's how it's going to be from now on." Or just not avoid or just not talk about it, and then you're left with like, "Well, that hurt my feelings and I don't know how to proceed in this situation." You know, I mean, it's communication, and it makes things easier for everyone if you know how to do it nourishingly.
Because that's the truth, right? Like because how we impact each other, like that's our truth. Like it truthfully hurt him how I handled something.
Yeah.
I was truthfully frustrated. We came together and like found some compromise in there by like really talking honestly about what
Right.
happened, and that set a stage for us to be able to find some resolutions that are going to stick better.
And that helps him to know he can still come to his mom, and if something does happen, that you're going to still be there and be back and be like, "Hey, it shows nobody's perfect for one, and you're not." I think a lot of times for me as a parent, I want to be like, "I'm the parent, and I said so." But like, sometimes I do that, and sometimes
Right.
that's just how it's going to be because I said so. But sometimes,
We almost always, as far as I know, give an answer.
we
like
try-
we always.
sometimes I'll be like, "I said so," and he'll give
I
an answer,
know.
and I'll be like, "No, just because I said so."
I know,
Like,
but we typically go back and say, "Okay, this is the reason why."
yeah, we do most of the time do that. Sometimes I don't feel like I need to explain
I
myself.
know. I get the same way too at times.
But
But
we're
that
human.
strengthens every relationship
does.
that you can have.
Sure.
As long as what you did initially to cause the harm was not too harmful.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some things that you're not going to come back from, but those are really rare.
Right, and yeah.
Most of the time, if you mess up, you come back, you genuinely apologize, and you recognize that here's what I did that was wrong, and here's how I plan on fixing that. Most people will let that go, and it strengthens the relationship. The best relationships are the ones where you can fight, argue, have disagreements, and you still like each other at the end of it.
Yes. Yeah.
And if we all think about our best relationships, that's the ones that we look at fondly, is the ones that we have those type of interactions with, yet we still like want to be around that person.
Right. Well, it's like you have communications to the point where even if you do have an argument, you still like that person because you come out of it feeling like you've accomplished something, instead of feeling like you're not heard or understood.
Yep. Agreed.
Like you trust them enough to argue with them.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I
That is
need to
exactly
trust
it.
you enough to argue with you.
Yes, that is
And-
exactly it.
Also, I trust you to tell me the truth and not just what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that is super valuable
Yes.
to me. And in my closest relationships, I want you to be somebody that I know isn't just going to be saying something because it's the pleasantry or
Right.
politeness. Like your deep relationships are going to say what's up for real.
Yes.
Yeah, because like our communicating to nourish, not harm. I want somebody that I trust enough to be able to come and give me feedback so that I can be better, right? Or if I've hurt you and I don't know you or trust you, you can come to me and be like, "Hey, you know what I mean?" I want people to be able to be honest with me, and I've not always taken that the best way, and I've learned how to be more accepting of criticism and feedback from people, and how essential that is to my own personal growth, and being aware of those things. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the key is proper communication requires the development of trust first. And I know that's not easy. A lot of people have been through circumstances where they fear trust, they fear vulnerability, they fear connection with other people, and because of that fear, they keep themselves at a distance. But it's understandable. So that's what one thing therapy is for, is trying to understand where those hurts come from and work toward healing them so you can develop trusting relationships with other people.
Can we go over the individual styles real quick so that, because Lovely Paws has a relationship worksheet, goals worksheet,
yeah.
and everybody can write down their different styles on their worksheets. And
Are you
for this
talking
one,
about like the different behavior styles?
yes, the
Oh,
different,
okay.
like, yes.
At least list them.
Yeah, we
at
can,
least
I can list them
yeah,
for sure.
and the conflict styles. So,
Well, I just did the conflict styles. I went through all of those. I listed
right.
those.
Can you go over, like, say them again, like,
Sure.
rotely?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Everybody get your pencil and piece of paper ready. I'll wait.
Or you can
Okay.
pause the video.
Okay, there we go.
Or I'll do it in the comments.
Or Kindred will do it in the comments.
There
That's
we go.
great.
Perfect. Okay. So the communications, we'll go with the behavior styles first.
Yeah.
So the behavior styles are first, there's an amiable style. There is, that amiable style is that friendly peacemaker, wants everyone to get along, wants
Yeah.
to see the best in other people, hates drama. Then there is, and
That's what I am at home.
yes, that's what you are at home. Then there is the expressive style. That's somebody who's boisterous and doesn't have much of a filter. That's like you more when you're in your manic phases. Like super creative.
Like last week,
Yeah.
Therapy Thursday.
Wants to put everything out there that they think and feel, wears their emotions on their sleeve, but is prone to personal attacks on people when they're upset.
Yeah, that's an unhealthy me.
Well, amiable people, they just tend to accommodate, but sabotage at the same time.
There's good and bad on
Oh,
on,
yeah, for
on
sure.
all the sides.
All of them, yes.
Yeah.
Spoken like an amiable person.
Yeah, Stacey's definitely an amiable
She's
expressive.
an amiable expressive for sure. Then there's your analytical types. They're your bottom line. It's about accuracy.
That's how I am at work.
Yeah, they want everything to be right, perfect, in order, and they're very. A lot of times they appear very emotionless,
Direct.
blunt, but exact is
Yeah.
what they look for. And under stress, they just tend to shut down. You can be
yes,
those
you're
at
very,
times.
Yeah,
Yes,
you're very. I would say you would probably be a amiable, logical.
Yeah, amiable, analytical. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there is, and you can be a combination of these styles, obviously.
Yeah.
And
At
then
work,
there's,
I'm
then there's the driver. That's the bottom line. Don't waste my time. We're getting things done. All I want to see is results. Don't fail type of thing.
I'm a driver, analytical at work.
And then and so those are the communication styles, or I'm sorry, the behavior styles. And then the conflict styles, there's accommodating. That's just like, I'll give you whatever you want.
Right. Avoiding.
There's avoiding. I don't want to deal with you. Compromising, which is like, we'll both give to get. There's the competing. I'm going to win and you're going to lose.
Yep.
And then there's the collaborating. We're all going to try to win here.
Yeah.
And so there's different times to use those styles, but that's a whole other podcast. So I think we're about out of time. So if you need work on these things in your own life, that's what therapy is for. We're here to help. You can reach out to us. Affinity Counseling Services, AFFINITY. You can reach us on Facebook, our Facebook page. You can contact us by phone, 870-324-5122 for Arkansas, or for Missouri, you can contact us at 573-840-0440, or sign up at counselingwithaffinity.com. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next week.